And hello from this special edition of your trusted local podcast. I'm Jackie Kennon, joined by Charles Hart.
Good morning, Jackie.
Yeah, good morning.
I think this is the first time for both of us on this podcast, actually.
Yeah, it's kind of fun, something different.
No.
Usually we have a lot of structure on a newscast, and this is just like a conversation, so this is kind of fun.
Now we can just chit-chat.
Yeah.
Chit-chat.
But there is a reason we're doing this.
Yes.
You've been working for weeks on a story, an I-9 investigation.
Yeah, absolutely. You know what's funny? So this is, of course, about Iowa City's fare-free transit. So for the past 2 years, they've been doing fare-free to ride the bus. So to put that simply, anybody riding the bus doesn't have to pay a dime, and it's free for anyone and everyone. And it's actually been so successful, they've extended it another year. And so I think that kind of begged the question, as our news director Adam Karras and I were talking. Why doesn't Cedar Rapids do this? If it works so well for Iowa City. And so I remember that first email I sent out about this story was actually towards the early part of July, which just kind of gives you the scope of how long I've been working on this to get the the ridership numbers for Cedar Rapids, Iowa City, Dubuque, and all that. And now here we are.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
We're doing a lot of talking about school buses, back to school, but this is the city buses.
Yep. This is transit. So exactly. So a lot went into kind of get all the pieces together for this story. So obviously I was just talking about the first kind of big thing was getting those ridership numbers, getting the data, and getting those facts locked in. And then the fun part came where when I rode the bus in Iowa City, actually, to kind of immerse myself into what these people what these people do day in and day out. And I chatted with plenty of folks, on and off camera. So I actually rode 2 full bus loops in Iowa City, and each of them are an hour long. So that was 2 hours of riding the Iowa City bus. I think I rode the South Loop, and then I rode the West Iowa City Loop. So, and I talked to 9 total people for this story. And so just to kind of give you an idea, so that included bus riders in Iowa City. And then, of course, our photo talk, Sam and I went down to the Ground Transportation Center in Cedar Rapids to talk to some people waiting at that bus stop too, because obviously in Cedar Rapids they have to pay. So that's where that comparison comes in of why doesn't Cedar Rapids do something like Iowa City does. Talk to riders there about what their experience has been. I talked to some people that qualify for fare free through being low income or etc.
There are some programs, but you have to qualify for them. It's not universal.
No. As of Iowa City is of course universal right now. But yeah, I talked to them, and I talked to the Darian Engelgam, the Transit Services Director in Iowa City, and she was great in giving me all the information and telling me how successful it's been. And I also talked to the transit manager here in Cedar Rapids, so Sergio Hill. So just a lot of people.
Right. And of course the big question is, it's not, what is free to rioters? Someone has to pay for it.
Exactly, yes. So that's the big question right there. That, of course, is answered in the package. But so the first 2 years for Iowa City was funded with COVID relief funding. So, I think that includes ARPA funding and various things within the federal COVID relief funds there. And now, since it's been so successful, they've extended it an extra year right now. And so that is, they increased parking fees, as well as, implemented I believe it was a 2% utility tax increase. So that goes a little bit to the taxpayers, but that is to help keep it going another year. And I think if they can find some sustainable funding, I was told that they would hopefully be able to do it more. So.
Right, and Iowa City has seen success in the number of rides. I know you have some data there to show how many tens of thousands of people more are taking the bus.
Yeah, exactly. I came prepared. So in fiscal year 2024, it was more than 1.5 million rides. So that's pretty impressive.
That's a lot.
Yeah, exactly. And so, but then get this. So the next year, fiscal year 2025, it was over 1.75 million. So to put that into perspective, that's a jump of nearly 243,000 rides in just a matter of 12 months. That shows you how successful that's been so far.
And what was it like when you were riding the bus? Was it crowded? Were people going to work? Tell me more about those bus rides.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think pretty much everyone I talked to on the Iowa City bus were going to work. I know I talked to one gentleman, Kristen Kent was his name, and you'll see him in the full story. He even rides the bus. He even has a car. His wife and him actually have 2 cars, but he still rides the bus a couple times a week to get to work. And he told me that he rode it more often, I think, before they had a car and stuff like that. And so another gentleman I spoke to kind of works in that downtown area for University of Iowa healthcare. So he rides the bus every single day to get to work. And I remember one of the things he told me in the interview was it's kind of been like a godsend that has been free. And so that just shows you kind of the scope of the impact that it's had on some of the people riding. And then I just talked to a very sweet lady who told me she was a retired nurse that I think was just taking the bus to run some errands. And then I also spoke to a bus driver on that West Iowa City loop that I talked to, and she was so sweet. And it was a good perspective from her too, because she actually, before she was a bus driver, she rode it fairly often. So she rode it before it was fare free, and now she's driving when it's fare free. So she's been able to see kind of the impact on bus riders. Before it was fare free, and she had to pay herself when she was riding, and now, she sees that jump. And she told me she saw that jump in ridership once it became fare free. And so, but yeah, it actually wasn't too busy. I think the South Iowa City loop was a little busier than the West one, so I was able to get more shots and kind of talk to more people on the South loop there. But yeah, both of them it was a pretty steady flow of people, but yeah, it wasn't too crowded. So yeah.
Yeah, because it is kind of difficult sometimes in Iowa City when you're downtown to find a parking spot, and then you have to pay for parking a lot of places, and those expenses, especially if you're going every single day to work, that can add up.
No, and especially that's a great point you bring up, and especially now that they've, to help fund this for another year, they've increased their parking fees. And so even Derry Nagel-Gam, the transit services director that I spoke to, said that they actually have proof that people have been switching their modes of transit from car to bus. So that's even better, for their transit system.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And is that also a part of a goal of Iowa City, to get more people to using those green methods to get to work?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I didn't ask that specific question, but I think that definitely they would love to see that number, increase, because obviously
it's kind of another aside for this whole goal.
More riders for their buses. So,
yeah,
absolutely.
But there are some programs in other cities like Cedar Rapids that you can ride for free or discounted rate too.
Yes, so one of the gentlemen I spoke to, his name was Joe Christensen. So he actually rides the bus every single day to get to some things. I think one of the things he does is ministry, so he told me he rides the bus to get there. And he actually has a 7-year pass, which he got through being low income. So that was a nice perspective to get from a Cedar Rapids bus rider who doesn't necessarily have to pay because they're low income, but he told me that he'd be able to get along without the pass, but it makes it a lot more convenient for him. And then another young lady I spoke to, her name was Camila Olemi. She's actually from South America. She actually rides the bus to and from Kirkwood Community College. And one of the things she told me about is that it's actually, the cool thing about her was that she came from Iowa City, where it was fare free, and now she came to Cedar Rapids, where she has to pay. And I asked her, what was it like making that transition from free to paid? And she told me it was a little frustrating, which is understandable for a young, college student, having to go from just being able to hop on the bus free of charge to now having to pay now. So
yeah, and how much does it cost to ride the bus here in town?
I'm actually not sure. I'll have to double check those numbers. But
okay. Yeah, and I also want to talk. You mentioned a little bit about your timeline for the story, but that's a bit of a different approach to news gathering.
Yes, it
Normally,
is.
Reporters, if you're not familiar with the process, would come in with a story idea, get that assigned in the morning, and then that evening, that story is airing. So that's a very quick deadline. But for this, we had some more time. You had some more time to get it.
Exactly.
All of your elements and to be able to ride the bus.
Yeah, and that helped tremendously because, of course, this topic, in a shorter form, in itself could maybe be a day turn story, but this one with needing to, needing the time to ride the bus, the Iowa City bus for 2 hours on a weekday morning.
That may be the whole time you'll have to do in a story in a regular day turn as a day reporter.
Exactly. It's not every day that you got to go to 2 different cities, and reach out to 3 different cities to get data. So it's nice that I had weeks, to put this together. It's something I'm very proud of, and I'm excited that it's all put together now. So,
yeah, and some of the gear you used for the story was something new to you as well.
Exactly, and it was something funny. I know I was explaining this to you on the morning show this morning. You and Kristen on the morning show. If you were to see me, shooting on the Iowa City bus that day, I would have looked like a YouTube vlogger holding up a tripod with a little gimbal camera.
The little camera is about that big, yeah.
But usually
our cameras are this big.
The Photox camera over the shoulder on a tripod. We have a whole tripod,
and so it helps you be more mobile and talk to more people.
And the cool thing was those little tripods. I mean, you have one yourself. I had the little mics I could put on the bus riders, and and so it was just with that little camera made it easy to get shots on the bus and talk to people and
to just feel like you were there riding the bus, which you were.
Exactly. it made it more conversational, I think, between myself and the bus riders. And you get some funny looks, whenever you're the media on a bus with a camera and just shooting randomly. But hey, all the people I spoke to were super nice about it.
You're in a public setting.
Exactly. So it was nice for a change, not having to. It would have been a different story if I would have had to carry a big camera around the bus. So.
Okay. Well, we talked about what it was like to do the story, what the story is about. Or one more thing, can you tell, how did you get the idea for this story? How did this start?
Yeah, absolutely. So of course this started when, I know we're trying to do more, these long form stories here, in the KCRG newsroom and of Gray Media as a whole. But I know our news director, Adam and I, we're kind of chit-chatting and kind of trying to bounce around some ideas for what I could do. And I know, KCRG, we've covered this in the past in a little shorter form of how when Iowa City was starting to go fare-free back in August of 2023. And so that kind of sparked the idea, and Adam brought this up to me of like, well, if it's so successful, why isn't Iowa City, doing something like this?
Other towns.
Other eastern Iowa towns like Iowa City doing this, not just Cedar Rapids. And so I was like, that'd be a great idea. And also it opened up a great opportunity to talk to just everyday people.
Right.
Going to work.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, that's right.
Okay. We've talked about how you did it, why you did it.
Why I did it.
When.
Yeah.
So how can people watch this?
Absolutely. The big question is so you can, of course, watch that full I-9 investigation. It's airing tonight right here on KCRG TV9 at 6 p.m. So again, tonight at 6, or you can catch it. If you can't catch it then, tonight at 6, you can catch it on our streaming, on our KCRG apps and kcrg.com.
All right, looking forward to seeing that.
Options, yeah.
All right, anything else you wanted to add about your story?
No, like I said, I'll say it again, something I'm very proud of, and it's a little bit of weight off the shoulders now that we've done all the heavy lifting, and now we've finally reached this point to where, the viewers can see this impact.
All right, looking forward to it. Thanks, Charles.
Yeah, thank you, Jackie.
And thanks for joining us for your Trusted Local Podcast.